Hi, I'm Essie.
And I'm Elle.
Welcome back to Magic and Mayhem.
Okay, so we are talking about and have read Illuminations by T. Kingfisher. I feel like I should probably just read the little synopsis since this isn't a super well known book.
Although,
Um,
also, there are spoilers in this
oh, yes.
episode. So if you don't want any spoilers, we'll see you next time. But we'll talk about the summary first.
Yeah, summary first. So it's Rosa Mandolini knows in her heart that her family is the greatest painters of magical illuminations in the city. Studio Mandolini has fallen on hard times and the future is no longer certain. While trying to help her family, Rosa discovers a strange magical box protected by a painted crow. But when she finds a way to open the box, she accidentally releases the Scarling, a vicious monster determined to destroy the Mandolini family at any cost. With the aid of her former best friend and a painted crow named Pain, it's up to Rosa to stop the Scarling before it unmakes the magical paintings that keep the city running and hopefully save her family in the process.
dun dun dun.
Oh my gosh, I know. So, that is what this book is about. It is not a super long book,
No.
and it for sure is geared more in a middle grade kind of way.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah. Again, I think this is one of the ones that was like Teen Kingfisher trying to write middle grade and was told it's still too dark. Even though I feel like this one's
It's
not as
not that
dark.
dark,
Yeah.
though.
I feel like it's not as dark as some of her other middle grade ones. So I think this one's totally fine for middle grade age.
I think this would be completely fine to hand to like anyone age 10 and up,
Yeah, I
basically.
think they'd be fine.
Rosa herself, the main character, is around 11.
10, nearly 11.
Oh,
That's what it
okay.
says.
But the story is a really cute, like, Renaissance era in Venice. It's a book about family, friendship, magical art, and a girl who wanted to help her family but ended up opening a big can of worms along with a magical box.
Yeah, made things worse for a while.
Made everything worse.
Like a lot worse.
So much worse. And I did enjoy how the book also touched on like jealousy and friendship and how friendships change. And sometimes they fade, sometimes they just change.
Yeah.
And can still be good, even if they're different. And then the working together aspect was really sweet. I liked very much the family dynamic was rather healthy, where typically in middle grades, so often
it's
like
horrible.
the family life is just awful.
There's like, why are these parents like this?
And
Their parents are always terrible in middle grade.
So often they are really terrible. And it's like, I understand what they're going for, but it is nice to once in a while find a book where the family isn't trash humans.
Right.
And I mean, the book, I did like that the family isn't perfect and the adults aren't perfect. They're all eccentric and kind of weird
and they fight
and everything. So they're realistic, but they're also not stupid or completely absent or useless.
or abusive like they are in some.
Yeah. They did not throw her under the stairs, even though they aren't her parents, they're her extended family. But it's just one of the things that I tend to like about T. Kingfisher is not always, but a lot of the times the families are more well shaped, I guess.
Yeah. Actually, a lot of times, or not a lot of times, but in several middle grade, it actually isn't the parent, like the main character doesn't have their parents.
Yeah.
It's, extended family that's raising them. And they still have a great relationship.
And they still care about them.
Yeah.
And whatnot.
Which is really nice.
And so you have the main character, Rosa Mandolini. You have Uncle Alfonso, who is the one who mainly likes. I thought it was so sweet, the encouragement that he gave Rosa on her like winged radishes.
Mm-hmm.
um,
Just
because
on our
that was
radishes
just,
in general.
yeah, just because she made them, he liked them and
I
like
think.
put them up and hung them, and it was he was giving her encouragement. I
Mm.
thought that was just so like so sweet.
Didn't she say Alfonso's her favorite? I
I
think
think
she
so.
did. Which honestly, yeah.
She said that if Uncle Alfonso had a flaw, it was that he was always seeing the best in everyone.
Everybody, yeah. I loved Uncle Alfonso.
He's such a sweetheart.
He is.
I liked all the characters, but
Mm.
I enjoyed her dynamic with Uncle Alfonso probably the best out of the relatives.
Yeah. Although I think Nadia you relate to the
Oh,
most.
I love Nadia. I love Aunt Nadia.
Nadia
I
was great.
mean, the fact I've I think I told you this while reading it, but where the quote where she's like, "I feel terribly weak," murmured Aunt Nadia, as if the life was draining away from me. Oh wait, it's just that there's no coffee. And I was like, ah,
Right?
same girl, same, same. It's me.
I loved her.
During one of their moments, cousin Sergio was supposed to be making the coffee, and she was throwing shade at him for not having it done yet. And he was
Yeah.
just like, "Oh, shut up."
He's like, I'm getting there. She was great.
I love. So, yeah, backing up, cousin Alfonso and cousin Sergio, or no, Uncle Alfonso,
Yeah.
cousin Sergio. I got that anyway. Uncle Marco, Aunt Nadia. Did grandmother have a name?
Grandmama is what they called her. That was the
Okay,
only name she got.
okay. Well, anyway, grandmama,
Mm.
which no name other than that, but I didn't think I remembered her getting a name.
Not that I remember. They all just called her Grandmama.
So that's the main family cast.
Mm.
Um, I also in in this what interested me most about this book was the magic system via their spells being essentially art woven spells.
Yeah, it was very cool. At first, when like I read the back, I was like, "What? What do you mean?" But when you read it and when it's described, like, "Oh, I get it now." Okay.
Yeah. It's also so funny. Like you have to paint everything a certain way,
Yeah.
otherwise the
Mm-hmm.
spells don't take.
Yeah.
And they have spells for like fire prevention and keeping
Hmm.
mice out of the house
Almost
and
everything you could think
like all
of.
kinds of things throughout the city, and that's what these magical painting
Hmm.
families do. And that's also what Serena's family does,
Yeah, the
who
best
is
friend.
Rose's sort of best friend, who in the beginning
They have a
she's not so in love
yeah.
with the friendship
They had a bit
between
of a
them,
falling out. Yeah,
because again, Serena is so much older,
whole year.
a whole year, and so she's thinks she's so much more world wise, and it grates on Rosa's nerves.
Which fair.
Honestly, yeah, fair.
Having been the younger friend most of the time, yeah, that's
Yeah.
really freaking annoying.
And they always like I've had these moments too where the older kids are always talking down like, "Oh, you'll understand when you're older," or whatever. And it's
That's
like, "Oh, really? A whole year makes you so world."
apparently.
I thought I enjoyed that because it again brought up, just because you're a similar age and your family does the same things, the family assumes you're still going to always be best friends.
Yeah,
And they're like, "Oh, go play with Serena." And she's like, "But
I can't.
I don't want to."
Yeah,
We're not really
we're not
that great of
friends right now.
friends. And they're like, "You just go play with her if you're bored." And she's like, sigh. Fine. And then in doing so, she and Serena have yet another falling out moment where
Mm.
Serena's really mean to Rosa, and talks bad about Rose's family. But then you find out that it's because Serena's standing up for her brother, more or less, which Rosa doesn't find out till way later.
Yeah.
But the whole big issue there was that I think cousin Sergio was the one who it was who got the commission that her brother wanted.
Yeah.
And so she's mad at Rosa and
For
the
that.
whole family because they got the commission that her brother wanted. Even though,
yeah, her brother wasn't upset though.
I mean, I feel like
yeah,
that's really understandable to be disappointed. He was
he's
disappointed.
Not blaming them though.
Yeah, and he even mentions that it's like, well, yeah, I'm disappointed that I didn't get it, but someday I'll get one that they wanted, and it all kind of balances out and evens out. And he's not bitter. She's bitter on his behalf. It does work that way though sometimes in family. Like they'll have let it go, and then like
I'm still mad.
I'm still mad. I will never forgive.
Right.
As long as I live, I'll never forgive you.
Especially at that age, because everything is the end of the world at that age.
Oh yeah, and it's such a big thing, and like the jealousy that's kind of and protectiveness centered around their argument. Also, it was entertaining, even though it's just the tiniest little job. Serena like got this commission to paint all these lids, and it was a real commission. And Rosa is also so jealous of this.
I'm just like, there's a lot of jealousy running around.
So much jealousy.
Goodness.
But at the same time, you understand.
Yeah.
Like, especially at that age, it's like such a big deal to get like a real quotes unquotes job and whatever. Even if it's just something small.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It's a real
job.
A real special thing.
Especially like 12, which is what Serena was. That's a big deal.
A very big deal. So you can understand how excited Serena was also.
Yeah.
And later how upset she was when some of her work got ruined. And you can understand how Rosa is jealous because, wow, that's a big thing.
It's a big deal, yeah.
Even though it wasn't like some great monumental thing, it was still a job. It was painting, what was it, to keep him from spoiling or something?
I think so.
On jars. But it was still it was her job.
Yeah.
Another thing between the families that I loved was how even though the families are technically rivals, they share paint and supplies freely.
Yeah, I really like that too.
Because they're still a community regardless. It doesn't matter.
It wasn't like the we're at each other's throat type of rivalry, which was really nice.
And like, for example, they weren't mad at each other, even though like one family got like in the big project with the canal. One family got 2 projects because they had the ability to do 2 projects. Yeah. Whereas Rosa's family only got 1, and she was kind of annoyed by that. But they were like, no, it makes sense because they can produce 2, we can't. Yeah. Because we don't, like, they share the work.
So bad I kind of wanted to move into their community.
I was I know, right?
Their community sounds great. Like, I want to move there.
It sounds really sweet, and it's really sweet to see that community that was depicted in the book of these artists who, sure, they may be competing, but it doesn't matter. If you need paint, you can have some. Yeah. Or whatever it happens to be. Yeah. And I like how the magic system worked into that as well, and the community aspect. So then moving on to the main catalyst, there was the box.
Yes, the magical box.
And her opening this box with the
The crow painted on it.
Crow painted on it, who isn't in. Well, he is a painting, but
Yes.
he's alive as well.
Yeah, both.
Pain.
But he comes alive when she opens the box.
He was like acting as a seal
Yeah.
for the box that was over this.
Kind of like guarding it.
Yeah. He was guarding the scarling and or a vengeful mandrake root that
Yes.
could create scribblings.
Which I don't know why, but mandrake root was such a great
Yeah.
thing to use. I could picture that so well.
I know.
A evil little mandrake root.
Yes.
Literally easiest thing to picture in my mind. I was like, that was such a good choice for your like villain character.
Yes.
I loved it so much.
It was such an interesting thing, and also it coming alive and all this. You can kind of
Yeah.
see how putting magic into something like that and the way it was explained was very interesting.
Mm.
It, and the Scarling itself was a rather interesting character.
It was.
And you can, it was, they, both Pain and the Scarling were trapped in the box basically for a few hundred years.
Yep.
By Tybalt. And it's Tybalt, he's the problem. It's him.
It's him. He is the problem.
But it was just, you can understand a bit why Pain is the way he is and is kind of hurt and wounded, especially after finding out that Tybalt had promised him that he'd get him off that box once he found another way. And he said it would be a few weeks, and then Pain is like, what? It's been how long?
Yeah, it's been hundreds of years. Like Tybalt's not even alive anymore.
And I thought that was it was kind of sad how it talked about Pain kind of struggling with the fact that he had loved Tybalt, and yet also having to struggle with the fact that he left him.
Yeah.
And the pain that goes into having your creator like just abandon you, and the like struggle he was feeling between loyalty and also being mad at him.
I say anger, a lot of anger, which I mean is understandable. Sometimes led Pain to not always make great decisions.
No, and sometimes you could understand what his advice was for Rosa, but it was very clearly not. And but you understood also why he had trust issues.
Yes,
and didn't
very very clearly why he had trust issues, especially with the family.
Yes, because they're all part of the same family. And obviously, even though he cared about Tybalt kind of betrayed him. And so you can understand what he was thinking. And technically, he wasn't wrong, because even Rosa, once she found out the mandrake root could like bring these things to life, technically, she was even like, just for a second. And he's like, ha, see?
He's like, see,
you think it too. You want this thing as well. And she's like, well, no, but yes, but kind of.
And in fairness, she's 10.
Yeah. So yeah, you understand.
Part of you wants to go back and shake Tybalt for everything.
I know, he's the problem.
He's very much the problem. He's technically really the villain.
Technically, yeah.
Not the Scarling, even though I mean, yeah, the Scarling does bad stuff, but only because of Tybalt.
Yeah.
So,
and what the enmity Tybalt caused between Pain and the Scarling as well.
Yeah.
Although I love the part where they were kind of arguing about the mandrake and all this, and they said, he made an evil monster that's out to ruin us. Does it really matter how good his technique was? And then Nadia says, of course it matters. You'd hate to see the studio destroyed by a mediocre artist, wouldn't you?
Yeah, that was funny.
She's like, well, yeah, of course.
Yes, it matters. Come on now.
If he's going to ruin us, he ought to be good.
That was such a Nadia response, and I loved it.
It was so fun. It was so cute and entertaining. Oh, although one thing, I identified so hard once the scribblings started like making all these magical draining thing, like the mandrake was draining the magic off of these pieces,
Mhm.
and they blamed Rosa. I literally have had such a similar experience. And I was like,
With magical
it's
draining?
me. No. No, but being blamed, like
Yeah.
being blamed. Because I remember one time as a child, I was the only child in the house, and something happened. And like I had literally just been sitting there like reading or something. I I had nothing to do with anything, and everyone was like, "Well, it was clearly you," and I'm like, "I literally
It
don't have
wasn't me.
any idea what you're talking about," and no one would believe.
See, this was those times it's like adults suck.
Yes, and it was later discovered that the dog did it, but
Rude.
I know it was both like vindication and like I told you I didn't do it.
But also like, really? You blame me for what the dog did?
Yes, but like it seems like you're the only culprit
Yeah.
possible, and so you do understand it from the adult's perspective. It's like
Yeah.
it couldn't have been anyone but you.
Yeah.
And then the kid's like, "No, but I didn't do it.
But genuinely, it
I
wasn't me.
literally didn't do it."
Yeah.
But I related so much with
There is
that.
so much of that in the book too.
Yes.
I was getting so frustrated. So I was like, it wasn't her, but she also won't tell you who it was.
Yes, which was definitely frustrating. You understood why,
Yeah.
because Payne told her not
Peter told
to,
her not to, and
but it was
she took
frustrating.
Payne's word for a lot of things.
Yeah.
And basically until she found out he did lie.
Yeah.
That's understandable because Payne was the one that was the seal and was there when everything happened. So why wouldn't you take his word for it?
Yeah. I was like, I was almost expecting Payne to turn out to be evil.
Me too. I was like, is Payne one of the villains too?
I know. It was, I was curious to
Especially
find
when
that
we found
out.
out that he lied, and I was
Hmm.
like,
He wasn't, but it would have also
no,
still been interesting if he had been. But
he wasn't always the brightest, but he wasn't a
yeah.
villain. But I mean, in
But
fairness to him too, he is a painted crow, so like,
yes, a painted talking crow, but nonetheless.
but you know,
Then once it's revealed that it's the Scarling, and finally things come to light and we really get
mm-hmm.
things moving, and the action begins, that was kind of what?
Sorry, I just read an audio quote.
Which one?
I refuse to die until I've had coffee. I won't do it.
Yes, this is why she's my favorite.
It's funny every time.
Yes, and it's, I mean that plays in, but when they're having
Yeah.
to fight the Scarling and or Scribblings, which it turned out the Scribblings could hurt them.
Yeah. Which I thought was really interesting.
That was an
I didn't
interesting.
realize that they could.
I didn't either until, of course, they did.
Then you're like, wait, what?
Then you're like, oh,
You're
plot
like,
twist.
stakes just got a heck of a lot higher.
Yeah, especially since there are more and more and more of
More of
these
them,
things.
yeah.
And it's like, oh dear.
It just got real.
Yeah, because they can do damage.
Yeah. Plus, at first, like, you're like, oh, they're drawings. Like,
Yeah. They
whatever.
didn't seem dangerous.
Yeah. You're like, it's just like a cute little story. And then you find out they can actually physically harm you. Like, oh, okay. Well, that's a problem.
Yeah. And I loved that reveal too, where they're like, oh, uh-oh.
Yeah, we're in
Uh-oh.
trouble.
And I also loved the grandmother in that, where she just sets out to work and she's fixing everything.
Mm,
And just her spirited drive always entertained me.
I liked her too.
I also liked how she stress bakes.
Yes.
While they're trying to catch this thing, she's like filling the entire house with baked goods.
goods. I was like, can I come visit?
I know.
I want some. These sound delicious.
But the grandmother is so funny. But also the grandmother, and once Serena comes to help them and is fighting on their side, which props to her, especially after they found out that these things could hurt you.
Right?
Her and the grandmother, like, single-handed almost for a
Right.
while fighting these things.
They did such a good job.
They did.
I was like, honestly, saved the day right there.
And the grandmother, like, batting the Scarling with like a ladle or something.
Just beating him with a ladle. It's so funny.
Because the grandmother, among all of them, was the only one who didn't have, like, quote unquote powers.
Yeah.
She could feel magic, but that was it.
Yeah.
And so she's like, my superpower is cooking, therefore I will beat you to death with a ladle.
So funny. It worked.
It worked, didn't it? Yeah. But
I can't draw Illuminations, but I can beat you.
Yes.
With a physical item.
Which it was pretty effective.
It was.
It worked.
Although, I mean, if someone was beating me with a ladle, I'd pay attention. Yeah.
I know. Although it was a little bit dark, where after they have this confrontation with the Scarling, and they get his charcoal away from him, his magic charcoal.
Yeah.
It's a little dark.
Right? I was like, I'm sorry, what?
When he, like, burned off his own arm to continue to have chalk so he could draw more enemies.
I was like, excuse me?
I know,
Excuse me, what?
That was dark.
I was like, oh, there's the Kingfisher. Like,
yeah, right there.
Thing.
It was like, oh, yep, now I see it. I thought the same thing. It's like, oh, here's the dark. Yeah, he burned off his own freaking arm.
Oh my gosh, Kingfisher. You almost had a cute fluffy story. Almost.
It still was cute, but
it was. But
their whole fight with the Scarling and the Scribblings, it was also it was tense, but also like cute. Especially after Serena was like, idiots. Stupid.
I know, I was like, thank you, Serena.
She's like, okay, so all of you can draw this thing, but it takes a lot out of each of you individually. Well, hello.
Just do it together. And they're like, huh.
They're like, that's
an idea, yeah.
That could work.
Why did we not think of that? Like,
yes.
Apparently, because you're not Serena.
Yes. Well, and that was one of the dynamics that was interesting, was her family was used to working together.
Yeah.
Whereas all of the Mandolinis worked separately.
Yeah.
Always.
They had different styles and everything.
And so I thought that was an interesting kind of quirk or whatever.
Yeah.
Between the families. And so she could bring a dynamic or an idea.
And which I don't know if they would have won if it weren't for her idea.
Probably not.
Because, I mean, yeah, they were able to fight, but they were losing.
Yeah, they were definitely losing. Because it could draw more than they could. And so she kind of did save the day, more or less.
Yeah.
And then they all make this.
Yeah, that, and then her and the grandmama distracting.
Yeah.
While they could draw and be like, ah!
Yes.
Hurry, draw more radishes.
Although it was also cute that Rosa's radishes were the defeater.
Yes, that was so cute.
It was adorable. Because she's always wanted to be, the illuminator, make these. And all she ever draws is the radishes. But then it's the radishes.
The radishes are what do it. Although I wish that they had been able to actually put like illustrations in this, because
that would have been cute.
So cute. I wanted to see the giant radish at the end, especially. I was like, I wanted to see it. Although
this was so reminiscent to defensive baking.
Yes.
Whereas the whole process in the end was kind of that way, but also the fact that there was one radish left, just like there was one evil cookie left.
Yes. Yeah, I loved it. It was a callback, to defensive baking, and the end scene does feel like that too.
I loved the ending. It was a good ending where they band together. They
Yeah.
defeat it. The city and their family is saved. And also, I loved how no one questioned them, even though
No.
they're burying something out.
They're just like, eh,
They're like,
it's fine.
it's the Mandalinis. What do
It'll be
you what do you
fine.
do? And
Funny.
that was so entertaining to me personally. And they're just like, yeah, sure, that tracks.
Yeah, that'd be fine. I'm sure that they're doing it for a good reason.
Clearly. And they were.
They
They
were.
were.
Although I'm wondering, I think maybe the reason that the Illuminations ending is similar to Wizard's Guide is because this was supposed to be a replacement for Wizard's Guide,
Yeah, it could be.
and but
Although
then
this one is not as dark as the
true,
ending in Defensive Baking.
yeah. And in fairness, like they are completely different books. Like
Oh, vastly.
they're vastly different. It's just the ending that's a little tiny bit similar. And even then, like I don't know if you'd really notice unless you read them pretty close to each other,
Yeah.
like we did. But yeah,
But this one was much lighter. It had a much
yes,
lighter ending than
yes,
Defensive Baking, for sure.
yeah. And I'm sure that was probably intentional. Mm-hmm.
I liked how the children were depicted.
Mm-hmm.
Like, one of my favorite moments between Rosa and Serena was where this random guy is like, no fight. I don't remember. I don't think he even had a name, but he's like, no fighting, girls. And it says in a jovial tone, he said this in a jovial tone that grown-ups use when they think they're smarter than children. And then she calls back, we aren't, called Rosa in the saccharine tone that children use when they know they're smarter than the grown-ups in question.
Yeah,
I love
exactly.
that.
That was amazing.
And it
Yeah,
honestly, it's so
it's
accurate
true.
to
Yeah,
like when someone's scolding children and they don't even know what's happening, and the children are like, "Yeah, you're
yeah,
done,"
you're done.
but they don't
We
say that.
aren't. Yeah, and you know exactly what tone.
Yes, you can
You
hear
can
that.
hear it.
You know.
You're like, yes, that one.
The girls were pretty smart still,
Oh
even though
yeah,
they should have told the adults sooner. They were still
they were
like
smart on their
smart.
own.
Granted, they were operating under kind of a lack of experience, and they weren't as world wise as they thought.
Well,
But
and just
regardless, yeah.
lack of knowledge of
Mm-hmm.
this creature entirely.
Yeah.
Like they'd never seen anything like this. I don't think anyone had.
Yeah, that's kind of the point. Both Pain and the Mandrake root were kind of special in general,
Yeah.
and you weren't really supposed to use Mandrake root in things because it reacts a little too magically. Although I just have to point out just one moment that was so cute.
Mm-hmm.
Was when Rosa asks her aunt how her painting is going, and she goes, "Glorious, terrible. I don't know. I'm a genius or an idiot. I won't be sure until it's done."
I'm not really even an artist, but I felt that.
I know. It's like, regardless of whether, like, if you've done anything,
Yeah.
you anything creative or even like technical or whatever, you
Like,
understand
mm-hmm.
the feeling.
Great,
It's
terrible. I don't know.
yes. Or also, I liked how they talked about cousin Sergio,
Mm-hmm.
who believed that the painting was brilliant up until the moment it was finished,
Done. Yeah.
when he suddenly discovered it was terrible, and they had to stop him from setting the
Fire.
canvas ablaze.
But I was like, honestly, mood. It's not sets on fire. It's terrible.
It's so funny. But
Hilarious.
I think that was a relatable,
Very much.
super relatable,
Very
even
much.
as like a writer, an artist, a
Any kind
even
of creative.
programmer or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, it's great, it's going great. It's
That's
actually horrible.
awful.
Everything's terrible.
Terrible.
It needs to die.
I should never touch this again. I should never touch anything again.
Yes. And I loved
That's so
that.
good.
And like that closes out the whole relatability thing right there. This book is relatable
It
because
is.
of this alone.
Right? Mostly from several things, but yeah, that's a big one of them.
And what would you say your likability of the story was?
I really liked it. It's not my favorite like middle grade from T. Kingfisher, but I really enjoyed it anyway. I really loved the ending. I think I gave it like a 4.25.
I think I enjoyed it a bit more than you.
Which is usually how it happens.
We always do that. It's like
someone always likes
even
it
if
better
we
than the other.
both like a book, one of us is always like slightly like it more than the other.
Yeah.
Or what have you.
Well, I think a lot of it is like who who relates to it more. Obviously, you relate to this more because you're an artist.
Yeah.
I am not.
I loved the art
Yeah.
part of it. And even if you're like art, even if you're like graphic design rather than painting or whatever,
Yeah,
I
that's
think you
still
can
art.
still
Yeah.
relate to an extent to it, or even if you're artistic in any way, it makes sense, and it's cool to see it used,
Yeah.
art used as basically spells and talismans, and
It is one of my favorite magic systems that I've read.
And it's so detailed.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah.
T. Kingfisher can always be counted on.
Yes, very much so.
I think it might be like a 5-star for me because it was up my alley. Also, I immediately, when she was blamed for things, I was like, relatable.
Yeah, I think that probably as far of it is you related more to the book than I did.
Yeah, probably.
I still loved it
It
though.
was really a good book, and
Still highly recommend.
and less dark than a lot of them
And then a lot of
that
other
T.
middle
Kingfisher
grades.
does. There
I
was
don't know
no
what
necromancy or
I
like.
don't know what it says about me that I prefer her darker ones, but
No, I like the dark ones too, but it was much tamer,
yes,
and less dark.
which I wasn't expecting, but I liked it.
So I guess if you're looking for T. Kingfisher light, this is the book to go with.
This one. No, this is, if you genuinely want one for like like 10 to 12-year-old, like you're gonna be fine with this one.
Yeah, there's nothing other than the mandrake burning his own arm to create a new
so
stick.
that's not that bad.
It's not that bad. You didn't even see it. It's not like you were seeing him screech or anything.
Yeah.
So it's fine. But that's our thoughts on Illuminations by T. Kingfisher.
So next month's book is Can't Spell Treason Without Tea by Rebecca Thorne. So we're gonna go back up to an adult read for a little bit, and this was to be cozy and queer and delightful, and I'm really excited to read it.
For sure. So. Also, I think one of the descriptions was like a soldier, almost a retired spy or something.
It's retired Queen's Guard.
Oh yeah, that's what it was.
Well, not retired so much as ran away. So, and the most powerful mage in existence. So I'm very excited. And there's dragons.
I know.
There's no bad in this scenario.
Dragon bit. Like the dragons are always a plus.
So yeah, so that's our book for next month. So if you want to read it with us, it is out now. We did check. It is out now.
Unlike before, we thought it was out last month, and it was not.
So if you want to pick it up now and read it with us, that is what we're going to be going over for May, and the episode should be up in early June.
All right, guys.
Thanks for listening to Magic and Mayhem. All right, bye.